welcome back to another session of Yakima Chief Hop's Hop and Brew School. We are very excited to dive into this session of SORSE Tech Intro to CBD and Brewing with Water-Soluble Ingredients. A few items before we begin. If you have any questions, you can put them in the Q&A chat function down there at the bottom, and all sessions will be recorded and available to view on demand later, both on our YouTube and also on the Hop and Brew School website. Other questions about Hop and Brew School, please email us at brewschool@yakimachief.com. And today we're very excited to be joined by Michael Flemons, who is the EVP of Research and Technical Business Development at SORSE Tech. Thanks for joining us, Michael.
Thanks for having me. So just a bit of housekeeping. I know the questions, please submit them in the chat function as well. Just in case we don't get to them or you have extended comments, SORSE technology will be co-located with Yakima Chief Hops in the booth at CBC. So all the SORSE team members will be there to take questions and do in-person demos. We will also be in Yakima Chief for Hop Harvest, again, to answer any questions and to see the different technologies we're about to talk about real live and in person. We're going to talk a little bit specifically centered around CBD, but then some other water dispersible ingredients for brewery applications. So who is SORSE Technology? We're a company, the corporate headquarters is in Seattle. We are in business as a technology company specifically centered around converting functional ingredients into water dispersible platforms. So what does that mean? We take ingredients that are either have a sensory challenge or have a dispersibility challenge, say like an oil that doesn't necessarily want to go into water right away. And we take those different functional ingredients and convert them into a platform so people can add them directly to their manufacturing process or their products as a whole. We are a very R&D centric organization. We have over 30 R&D scientists in the lab, flavorists, chemists, biochemists, analytical chemists. We've got some ex-brewery folks. So very well focused group that centers around all the science and technology you're going to see. We have publicly partnered with Yakima Chief, specifically in this instance, to convert hemp or extract, most people associated with CBD, into a water dispersible platform. The hemp that we are processing for Yakima Chief was grown by the Yakima Chief ranches, extracted under the Yakima Chief house, and then we simply take that extract and convert it for Yakima Chief. A little bit more about SORSE. SORSE originally got its start in the THC side of things, converting THC distillate into platforms for the edible market inside of THC. Been a little bit successful. The #1 beverage in the United States is a brand called Major, and that is an internal house brand for SORSE. We also have the #2 best-selling THC beverage in the country by a company called and that is also using SORSE and SORSE technologies. In 2018, with the advent of the Farm Bill that legalized the cultivation and processing of hemp, we also use the same technology and the same base technology and processing to convert CBD compounds, extracts into water dispersible platforms. We are not your general run-of-the-mill CBD provider. There are a lot of them out there. We specialize heavily in targeted therapeutics. In that light, we have a full medical division where we work on, believe it or not, on cancer research associated with cannabinoids and other extracts, and using our technology as a delivery platform for that. And then that brings us also into a separate subcategory where we focus on terpenes and botanicals. We have some IP pending about converting hop extracts into platforms that breweries and non-brewery companies can use as far as flavor and aroma or delivery of other systems. The water-soluble, water-dispersible technology that we use is a way to drag some of these ingredients into an otherwise challenging environment. They can be oils, flavors, adaptogens, nootropics, a lot of different chemical compounds that people want to use that are trendy, or they have some really great function in the process, but sometimes can be challenging to work with. Basically, at the core, what we have is we have an emulsifier. For those of you who are not classically an emulsifier, most people are familiar with soap, dish soap. Dish soap would be a version of a surfactant or an emulsifier. It has a section of the chemistry that is water soluble and a section of the chemistry that is oil soluble. And what we do is we align those oil soluble pieces into the oil extract. It could be hop extract or CBD extract. And then the other phase orients in the water. Through some processing, we're able to turn those oil droplets into very, very small droplets and sort of wrap them up with some tech. The best analogy I can give is essentially we're creating M&Ms, where the chocolate of the M&M is the oil or the compound of interest, and our technology is sort of the candy coating shell on the M&M. It's not necessarily a solid shell. It has a micro porosity to it. So these flavor and aroma compounds that we're interested in can actually diffuse out of the micelle and perfume or provide aromatics to the system. It's much like a tea bag does. An interesting feature to the technology is the perimeter of that shell has a net positive charge. That may not mean a whole lot, but when you think about it, these molecules or these droplets essentially act as two North Pole magnets. So when these individual droplets come in close proximity to each other, they actually repel. So what does that mean for the users of this tech is this product is essentially self-mixing. So if we added the product to just a pint glass with some water and added any of these products and just set them for a few hours, the product will literally mix itself. That's advantageous because most folks don't have the means to do any high shear mixing other than a recirc pump. And it's not necessary. So a lot of folks, whether they're building seltzers or other products, will essentially dose material into a bright tank. They fill on top, and then many times just carbonating the system alone is sufficient to mix the product. The other thing that happens is that those products tend not to fall out of solution because they tend to be mixing themselves constantly. I have a product on my desk that is essentially 2 years old. So that means we have a nice homogeneous product that is in many times, especially for the brewery space, the product will outlive the workable shelf life of the beer that you put in the product. The technology is sort of agnostic to where these certain compounds come from. So this is limonene, and the technology is sort of agnostic to whether that limonene compound comes from a citrus fruit or a cannabis plant or a hop cone. And what that allows us to do is sort of leverage all of that shelf life stability data that we have for years now on the THC side and for the last couple of years on the CBD side. And since the technology doesn't care where the compound comes from, it only sees those compounds. So if someone says, well, how do you know it's good for 12 months? And I was like, we have historical data that allows us to leverage all of the analytical data that we've collected over the years in relation to our product. We stand on a lot of pillars. Our company was founded and has been focused on hiring professionals out of the regulated spaces under the FDA. For many cases, that's food and beverage professionals. So the folks in the lab and the quality department have come out of the food and beverage space with a focus on safety, stability, regulatory compliance. Not only should we make these compounds easier to work with, we should make them as safe as possible and have all the requisite regulatory documents and regulatory submissions to back up all of these materials that we're using. So essentially what we've done with Yakima Chief is leverage Yakima Chief's ability to grow hemp. And we've had the unfortunate pleasure of tasting most of the CBD or hemp extracts that are commercially available. Lo and behold, Yakima Chief flavor and aroma experts are also pretty darn good at making hemp extracts. And we found that their sensory profile for a broad spectrum CBD extract was probably first in class, unlike anything that we've ever seen. And in combination with their great starting material and our technology and manufacturing, we were able to convert this material into a water dispersible platform. Originally, the intent of doing CBD was essentially to do some NA offerings inside the brewery space. If folks were curious about developing some taproom products that could help leverage the folks that are coming into the tap room, not necessarily looking for alcohol at every drink or as a nightcap. For those of you that aren't familiar, CBD works on a system in our body called the endocannabinoid system. Every human being walking around the planet has the endocannabinoid system. This is why things like CBD and THC work on your body, is that you have the ability for those molecules to hit certain receptors in your body. THC, everyone is very familiar with the effects of having that compound hit the receptors, that it is an intoxicating compound. What most people are challenged with is in the CBD space, CBD promotes what we call homeostasis. And essentially that means is that the compounds help you get back to a state of normal. So if you twist your ankle and you have some inflammation, the role of CBD in the endocannabinoid system is to reduce that inflammation and to somehow treat any side effects of pain. So when you take THC, you know when you have it because you're intoxicated. When you take CBD, the challenge for many people is how do I know I'm feeling it? I don't really feel anything. And the hard part is that you're not supposed to. You're almost supposed to feel normal. Well, what does that mean for most people? You wake up with a headache and you take Advil, it removes the pain and you go back to what normal is. So if you're a traditional user of CBD compounds and you sit in a rush hour traffic for an hour, before you get to your destination, if you're not screaming obscenities and gripping the steering wheel with white knuckles, that means it's probably working and it's helping reduce that anxiety. So many times you're just looking for a sense of normalcy from these compounds. There's a lot of questions that typically come up associated with hemp. No, it does not get you high. And no, you will not fail a drug test if you consume hemp. It does allow for the cultivation, the extract, the interstate commerce. Unfortunately, the FDA has not approved CBD compounds for food and beverage space. So is it illegal to sell CBD beverages? Technically not. Is it legal to sell CBD beverages? Technically not. There's a horrible gray area associated right now. And for those of you from very, very aware of the TTB, because CBD is not GRAS listed or not approved for food and beverage use, the TTB will not approve hemp extracts for use in alcoholic beverages of any kind right now. So what does this technology solution give to our end users and our customers is that we hope to mitigate some of the off-sensory attributes of some of the compounds that are put in. If you've had the opportunity to taste CBD extracts in the past, some of you may have had a less than pleasurable experience with some of the sensory notes that come from the hemp plant, and part of our technology helps alleviate or mitigate some of those off-sensory attributes. It also allows for a seamless integration into manufacturing processes. You don't need no special dosage requirement, no special mixing, no co-solvents, no adverse chemistry on the label. It's literally dump it in and away you go. Some of the other compounds that are analogs to what we're doing with CBD is that I have developed, and CBC is really the launching point for a number of suite of new products that we are leveraging in concert with the brewery space. The first of those compounds is a HAZE addition. If folks are struggling to create stable HAZE, or they can't get the desired level of HAZE, we have a number of concentrated HAZE extracts that essentially they're all plant derived, and they are all 100% TTB compliant, and they have a very, very, very small fraction of hop extract in the HAZE. And what that allows you to do is to label it as just hops. In concert with that, when we look at some of the NA offerings, sometimes the finished product can present as a little thin. You don't necessarily get that nice mouthfeel that you can associate with a full alcoholic beer, or sometimes you just don't get the mouthfeel that you want out of your existing product. So one of the additional products we have is a mouthfeel enhancer. And again, it allows the brewer or the end user to create as much or as little mouthfeel in a finished product as they may want. And then the third one is coming is actually a emulsified hop extract. We're referring to it right now as a hop topper for folks that are looking for a little bit tweak at the top end to sort of a flavor and aroma boost, whether it's sensory just on the olfactory or actually is a taste profile. And all of these compounds treat them like Legos. So you could add a little bit of a HAZE to get the HAZE where you might want it. You can add a little bit of mouthfeel to bring up the mouthfeel, and you could also add a little bit of the hop extract to sort of round out or provide additional top notes if so desired. And they can be used independently or all in combination. They will all do the same thing. When we talk a little bit about HAZE, most people are really familiar with the fact that basically HAZE is just an obscuration of light, and that obscuration of light is driven in many cases by particles inside the fluid volume. That they could be yeast particles or hop particles or aggregated proteins or any even other things. We're simply leveraging small droplets of emulsified hop extract or plant material to give you that HAZE. And we can control the HAZE by a number of different mechanisms. One is the actual droplet size. So the bigger droplets will obscure more light, or by the dosage. So it gives us a nice sliding scale to look at different droplet sizes and different uses of the dosage of the products inside the finished product. This is just an example. We went to the store and just bought some commercially available Sierra Nevada Torpedo. And this is a 3%. This is our lightest, lowest HAZE product. And we were dosing different amounts of HAZE into the beer. Traditionally, we measure turbidity or the NTUs through the small vials at the bottom. That's how we're used to seeing it. For folks that want to correlate that to what it looks like in an actual pint glass, that's the picture above. In some of the use cases here, it's a fairly high usage level, but it's essentially there just to demonstrate how much haze you can achieve at different dosages. We will also be commercializing a second haze modifier that is 2.5 times as concentrated. The reason we use a lower one and a higher one, the lower one is for sort of a tweak or a little bit of a haze modifier for people that are starting with a bright beer and want to get to something super, super cloudy or milkshakey. We can use the concentrated version. But you can see off to the right, these are turbidity measurements or hazy measurements of commercially available products. And then we just plot the slope of the line to show people that how easy it is to use to modify and get the haze where you want it to be. One of the things that we do a lot of work with is making sure that the haze is stable over time. The haze in our company was originally started because of THC. And if you had a very substantial quantity of THC in the beverage, say 100 milligrams or so, you want the consumer to know that that THC is dispersed homogenously in the finished product. And that is the mechanism by which we created the haze. So if our clients pick up a THC beverage and it's uniformly hazy, they know that the THC is distributed uniformly throughout. Because of the high dose products, most people tend not to drink the whole thing at once. But what we do is we put the product on stability and then measure the same exact vial. It could be every month, it could be every 3 weeks, whatever the interval is. And the color coding to the right of the graph is an individual data point of exactly the same vial over a period of time. So in this case, this particular product was tested for over a year. And we can see, because these lines match up on the side, that we know that the haze is incredibly stable. So 12 months of stability in a can of beer is probably more than you need. But if in the commercial products, if many cases, if we can either extend from 3 months to say 5 or 6 months of shelf life with haze, or if you're struggling to get haze at all, we know we have a mechanism by which you can create that haze. And all of these products essentially are there to help brewers and other beverage manufacturers create great tasting products, whether it's from a mouthfeel or from an aromatic perspective. We've tried to make this as seamless and as easy to use. All of the materials clean up during your normal wash process. Your clean and praise mechanisms will all take care of this. It's completely water dispersible. So no need to change anything as far as, changeover, cleanup, addition rates. It doesn't foul lines. All of those things are not something that anyone that uses these products needs to worry about. One of the things that we're targeting is to help capital expenditures. In case you're trying to make a product and you need new equipment, we might be able to effect a solution without any additional capital. We also hope to be able to shortcut some of the development efforts for folks that have a finished product, but they're not, or they're semi-finished product, but they're not quite exactly happy with the end result. We could pour 20 pint glasses on the bar, and we could go back and just add 1 or 2 drops of different solutions to see if we can affect a positive outcome, rather than doing, 10, 20 brews and iterations with all the timelines associated with that. It gives us a much more efficient and faster time to do our R&D. When people are looking at the hop topper, one of the side benefits would obviously be to slightly reduce the dry hop load, slightly give you a smaller increase in yields, a little bit longer turns, same amount of turns, a little bit more product. And a slight increase on shelf life. We find that between the mouthfeel and the haze and the hop topper, we're able to get sometimes an increased shelf life over the existing shelf life of the products. And we always say we hope that the first sip is as good as the last for our products. One thing to note, all of these products are manufactured under some of the most stringent guidelines from a health and safety and regulatory perspective. We operate as if all of the compounds and formulations that we make could be sold with the highest level of scrutiny from a regulatory compliance perspective from even the largest CPG manufacturers. So even if you don't need all of essentially a medical grade clean room for production, you will benefit because all of the products are essentially done under the most stringent of guidelines. For volumes, we have small scale production so we can meet the needs of folks that are just looking to play around, all the way through full commercial volumes. While 6 liters a minute in the brewery space is not a lot of products, when you consider some of the usage rates for our products can be as low as 2 milliliters per barrel. 6 liters a minute makes a lot of product for the industry. So just know that the company can and the products can grow with you. And again, these are all designed for an entire suite, essentially beverage products. Doesn't necessarily have to be necessarily inside the brewery space. It could be outside the brewery space. We could do hop waters, NA products, any sort of traditional brewery product. All of these ingredients can be incorporated into basically anything. And that's what I have. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I'm looking, it doesn't look like we have any Q&A currently in the function. Thank you so much, Michael, for joining us today and for sharing this information. Any viewers, please check back in at Hop and Brew School for future sessions, and we'll be starting again tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. for our next session. Thank you all for joining.